This is a Crypto Legends podcast. In today's episode, meet crypto legend JB Graftieaux, CEO at Bitstamp, on building a trusted crypto exchange.
Hello there. I'm Adam Bialy, CEO of Fiat Republic. This is the legendary tale from one of the world's first exchanges, Bitstamp. You'll learn about how right from the get-go, this pioneer built an exchange trusted by both regulators and consumers. JB, our today's guest, initially served as Bitstamp's Chief Compliance Officer, where he helped Bitstamp to become the first regulated cryptocurrency exchange in Europe. Bitstamp is on a mission to build a crypto economy that's simple, secure, and sustainable. From consumer-first coin selection, through the highest standards of security, to offering Bitstamp-as-a-service to financial institutions, JB knows a thing or two about establishing trust. We're delighted to be joined by JB, CEO of Bitstamp. Hi, JB.
Hi, Adam. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me here.
Awesome. So to start with, JB, could you please tell us a bit more about your journey to Bitstamp, and also you kind of left and came back. So what compelled you to rejoin Bitstamp?
Yeah, sure, Adam. So I've joined the company in 2014 for the first time. It was very interesting at the time. It was the early days of crypto. Company had about 8-10 employees at that time, and I joined the company as a chief compliance officer in 2014. Basically, my job was to build our regulatory footprint, so to get our payment license in Europe, which we have obtained in 2016 in Luxembourg. It was very interesting. We wanted to be regulated. That's really our footprint since the early days of the company. So we went to different countries in Europe, went to the UK, went to several other countries, and the only country really to accept crypto was Luxembourg, and that's really the reason why we decided to apply for a payment license in Luxembourg. It was the early days, at the time it was like probably 20 million of trading volume every day. I think we had 20,000 clients. Now we process about 1 billion in average. We have 5 million clients around the world. So company has changed very significantly. We have more than 600 people now on the payroll. And also the ecosystem entirely has completely changed in the last 6 to 7 years. And then, I left the company in 2016. I rejoined my past employer, which was PayPal and eBay. And about a year ago, I had the opportunity to rejoin Bitstamp as the CEO for Europe. And then about 2 months ago, I've been appointed as the new global CEO by our shareholders and board of directors. So overseeing our strategy and commercial activities, regulatory journey across the world. So very exciting, very, very exciting.
Congratulations on your recent appointment then.
Yeah, thank you.
I would say I also my path crisscrossed with Bitstamp a little bit because Bitstamp was my first exchange that I used as a consumer in 2017. So and you seem to have left in 2016, then went to PayPal. So it's interesting how those things play out. But it's also super fascinating how the business has grown. So let's talk about sustainable growth. Okay, so how do you become a regulated exchange? Why is it important for exchanges to be regulated?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Company was created in 2011, so we bring like more than a decade of crypto experience, which is quite unique in the ecosystem. And at Bitstamp and personally as well, I feel and I believe that regulation is very key in order to enable more business, to create a trusted environment, and to attract a class of clients which are looking for highly regulated solutions. And so early days, the two founders of Bitstamp, even if crypto is more like an ecosystem where probably, regulation at the early days was not necessarily incorporated in what companies were trying to establish at the time. But nevertheless, to attract regulated financial institutions, the key here is to become regulated. So early days, the intention was to become one of the first crypto exchange to be regulated, and we were the first one in Europe. And that was a nice way for us basically to attract banks and payment institutions and brokers, and really on the side to build, our fiat payment rails. So by being regulated, it gives us the opportunity to look probably more trusted, if I can say, and to build, a network of banks. We have 15 banks on the platform to offer payment rails, and this is probably quite unique in the ecosystem as well in terms of number of banking relationships. And at the same time, to attract, more regulated clients. So, for instance, we work with Revolut or the Stuttgart Börse, but also Swissquote as a bank, or LHV, which means that being regulated, applying the regulation to comply with AML, for instance, or Payment Service Directive, that's also a nice way for building the trust and attract a new range of clients, institutional clients, regulated institutional clients looking for regulated solutions there. So I think it was probably, the best move for the company from the start. And at the moment, we are in a very active regulatory journey, applying for many different licenses across the world in order for us to build our next chapter of growth. And, the crypto winter is here. It's the best time for us to invest in our capabilities for the future. And I'm sure we'll be super ready when the market is coming back, and hopefully as soon as possible.
Yeah, well, I hope so for the entire industry, I would say. It's interesting that you have to be regulated to be sort of using regulated services as well, right? Because you got to speak in their language. So it seems like you've adopted that approach or philosophy really well.
Yeah, that's right. No, you're absolutely right, Adam. I think it's to talk the same languages to build a trust, and this trust is enabling more business. So it's a bit of a virtuous cycle there. That's probably the key of the success, especially when you want to serve institutional clients. Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Yeah, exactly. So let's talk a bit about the DNA of a compliance first exchange. So you call yourself compliance first. What does that mean, and how do you build it?
Yeah, so we have about 600 employees at Bitstamp. Great employees, by the way, very strong team, and many employees come from the crypto world, but also from the traditional financial sector, where some of them have been working for banks or payment institutions. So really, when they join Bitstamp, they bring already this, regulatory DNA experience and knowledge. And what it means for us is that we have about 1/3 of the company working in compliance, legal, risk, regulatory. It's about 180 people that we have in our control functions, including, legal function, government relationships. So I think it's pretty massive in terms of investment that we have 1/3 of the company really dedicated to our regulatory journey and compliance journey, which means that we comply with every single regulation everywhere where we are operating. So we play completely by the book. Nevertheless, we do some intense, lobbying efforts as well to try to shape regulation so that it's more like, smart regulation for us. More than happy to comply, but, of course, it has to be risk-based and it has to be smart, to avoid any unnecessary burden on the ecosystem. So having done a lot of work, on MiCA, for instance, and AML regulations. So compliance first is, in terms of resources, we have key people, very strong, a lot of compliance knowledge. I think we have a package of controls which are extremely interesting from external parties, but also we have developed strong capabilities to monitor our platform, transaction monitoring, and also, reducing, for instance, fraudulent experience, AML, counter-terrorist financing. And we have basically very, very strong relationships with law enforcement agencies across the world. We just got the bronze medal from the Slovenian police just about 2 weeks
awesome.
ago. Yeah, to to reward Bitstamp on the good cooperation we are having with them. So yeah, there is a lot of very good storytelling and story points over the last decade as part of our cooperation with law enforcement agencies there.
It's great. I remember also the beginning. Bitstamp had there was a hack, right? Quite a while ago, and I think it's interesting. So let's sort of zoom in. How you're currently one of the only 3 exchanges that are certified at SOC 2 level. So it's very interesting how you go from this incident to where you are today, and how seriously you treat security. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it's in terms of timing, it's interesting because when I joined Bitstamp in 2014, it was in November, and the company experienced a hack in December, so a month after I joined the company there, and at the time, so it sounds quite high in terms of number of bitcoins. We had 20,000, 21,000, bitcoins being stolen by the fraudsters, which at the time was probably around 4 to 5 million euro, I would say, more or less, if I remember well. And it's very interesting because I think we learned very significantly from that experience. And as you mentioned, Adam, that was a long time ago. It was 8 years ago. So we learned a lot from that experience, which means that we have been able to build over time, very strong capabilities as regards the management of our different wallets. And of course, that incident was a trigger for us to be best in class for security, so that we could still serve our clients. Interestingly, none of our clients have been impacted by the hack. In 2014, everyone has received the money back, so that there's been no damage, I would say, from a financial standpoint for our clients. And we have not experienced, any incidents since that time. So we have an insurance in place. We have very strong mechanism in terms of security around our different wallets. And as you mentioned, we have the highest audited certification with the SOC 2 reports that we have received a few months ago, which is a very good sign of trust as well for our clients and our partners. So we are obviously investing a lot in compliance, but also investing a lot in security. I mean, that's probably the 2 key points there. If you want to be successful in crypto, you have to be very strong in compliance to satisfy financial institutions and your clients, but you have to be very strong also in security to protect the interest of your clients, and of course to protect your reputation.
Yeah, it's very interesting, that journey of recovery. As a consumer, I would almost not trust an exchange that hasn't been hacked. Right. It's ironic because it's like it teaches you, you get those lessons of okay, so now we need to take this seriously because it's customers' money, it's customers' tokens, right? And then you improve, and as you said, 8 years, it's a long time, but yeah, you've come a long way, I think, as an organization in that regard.
Yeah, and I think the most important here is that between 2014 2022, we have been bulletproof, if I can say like that. We have not experienced any incident, impacting our clients. Security measures are in place, insurance mechanisms are in place. So we are, fully secure, and we learned a lot from that incident. I think the group at the time was extremely well organized, very sophisticated. Now, we have all the measures in place to be best in class and to avoid such a similar incident in the future.
Awesome. Okay, let's zoom in on how you have built the trust, right? So with those words, security, compliance, regulatory excellence, comes trust, or the sort of the umbrella term is trust. So in the crypto exchanges space, it's recently become the trend that whomever can list the most tokens is the winner, right? That's not your approach. It's not the approach of Bitstamp. I know because I use you. So why do you do things differently? What makes you think that this is not the right approach?
No, it's a great question, Adam. Yeah, indeed. We have about 80 assets on the platform today. The thing is that we are as a top priority, we want to protect our clients there. So the coins we are listing on our platform are going through very strict due diligence process. So we are ensuring that there is an audit of the technology, there is a business plan, there is a team. There is also liquidity that we can bring onto the platform for the trading activities. So we ensure that the projects, the assets that we are listing, there is governance, there is substance, that there is no risk for our clients by investing in those assets there. So it's true to say we have been very, very, very strict as part of our due diligence, which means that probably the number of tokens that we have on the platform might be smaller than other exchanges. But if we look at our litigations today from our clients, there is zero litigation, as regards the digital assets that we have on our platform, which means that overall, we are doing the right thing for the clients, and we might lose some revenue opportunities, but at the end of the day, I think our DNA is trust, and by operating that way, by being very strict, this is basically the outcome is that we can build and we can share a lot of trust, with our clients, whether they are retail or institutional clients. But that's the key for us, and that's probably why we will, still be here probably in a year or in 2 years. I think there's the crypto winter. A lot of companies are experiencing some challenges. I think a lot of them will disappear. But I think for Bitstamp, it goes without saying, we will be there, for many, many years, by operating that way around regulatory and trust there.
And I think that's how you grow sustainably as well, right? Because growth can have many forms, but like to grow sustainably so that you don't lose the growth, and because something explodes or this project just completely implodes, that is the trick here, right? To be able to have those processes and controls that allow you to grow sustainably.
Yeah, absolutely, Adam. And I think that's part of Bitstamp. As I mentioned earlier, since day one. So regulatory compliance, trust, being very, very selective, very, very strict. But it's part of the life of the company, and that's why probably you would be there for many, many years. As opposed to some companies trying to list toxic assets, and unfortunately it's not paying off. It might pay short term, but it's not paying off, medium term or long term. It's really how we are, looking at things in order to be there for the next decade, basically. So to build a sustainable growth, there is interestingly, we are not exposed at all to the assets that we have seen at risk over the last 2 months. And our clients are not exposed there because we are not listing those assets. Yeah, that's quite key.
So when you were I'm gonna have to ask you this, but when you were looking at those at one particular asset, how do you look at tokens? How do you look at coins? What is your selection process? How do you make sure that, like you said, you protect consumers by essentially not listing them, by not even exposing them to this token? How do you do that? What is the process?
Yeah, sure. So we have a listing team. So every asset being listed on Bitstamp will go through this listing teams, and basically what we are doing there is it's very interesting. Is we are applying the spirit of MiFID there. So looking at business plan, risk of reputation, risk of IT security. Looking also at the liquidity, super important for us, to ensure we can bring liquidity onto the platform for trading those assets. We are looking at litigation. So there are hundreds of questions that basically issuer of the token will have to answer. And then we are performing deep, strict due diligence to ensure that we feel entirely comfortable with the listing of the assets there. So it goes from IT security to legal to compliance to the risk of reputation to the liquidity. So it's quite wide as a due diligence.
Very robust.
It's very robust, yeah, and very interestingly, when you look at MiCA and the provisions on assets, what we are doing is really in the spirit of
You're
MiCA.
already there. You're already there.
Exactly.
Awesome. Perfect. So when you're sort of trying to build that trust as an organization, like what are the sort of essential pillars, or what's the strategy behind that from the point of view of consumers, regulators, and banks? So, like each one of those has a different sort of perspective. How do you address each one of them?
Yeah, for sure. For banks, I mean, being regulated, having strong governance and package of controls in terms specifically around, AML is very key. So we spend a lot of time with banks to educate our partners on our AML processes, our trainings, our procedures, our systems, really to share a sense and a flavor of what Bitstamp is doing to fight money laundering and counter-terrorist financing. So we are, inviting our banking partners to come on site, to visit our teams in Slovenia, for instance, where we have, I mentioned earlier, 180 people working in compliance. So really to share our regulatory DNA. Being regulated is key as well for banks, and that's why we have a very intense regulatory journey at the moment everywhere in the world to ramp up our different licenses and basically to be ready for the next bull run. For our clients, it goes around education. We do a lot of contents on education, really to reassure them that they can trust us basically. And we just mentioned the assets, very, very strict in our selection of assets. We bring a lot of liquidity so that our clients can trade on the platform. This is very, very important as well. And I think what is really cool at Bitstamp is our customer services, our customer support. When you have any question or if you are experiencing any issue with your account, you can call Bitstamp. There is no bot at Bitstamp. There is a human being.
Good.
Taking the phone.
I never had to use this, but I'm now inclined to do so.
Oh yeah, and if you phone us, it's like within the next 15 seconds you have an agent answering the phone, 24 hours, 7 days a week, and I think this is absolutely very important for us. Yeah, it's pretty impressive. So I think that gives also a lot of trust to our clients, because we are always here. Clients first. You mentioned compliance first, and it's also clients first. We want to be here to assist them if there is any issue, any experience that they need our assistance there. So that's really for the retail or for our clients, and then for, I would say, our regulators, we also spend a lot of time with our regulators, answering to their queries, sharing on our strategy, sharing on our governance. We get audited every year by one of the big four, not only on the financial statements but also on our control framework. So all of it, goes together between being regulated, customer support, education, our processes to list assets, and simply our engagement with the overall community there. So that's how we are building trust, and we have 600 employees, which are really awesome with the right knowledge and strong regulatory expertise as well.
That sounds amazing. It's quite a sizable operation, I would say. From just double clicking on the regulators, do you find that you have to teach regulators certain things sometimes, or educate them about what you're doing? And if so, how does that impact the relationship? Does that actually help? or does it hinder?
No, sure. I think this is clearly we have to share what we do every day with regulators. And why? Because I mean the ecosystem is changing so rapidly. I mean there are so many new projects, new initiatives, and while we are a spot exchange, of course, we add new products onto our platform. We offer staking, we offer so a spot exchange, as I mentioned earlier. We offer post-trade settlements, and there are many other products in the pipe which will go live probably by the end of the year, which means that, we have to share and bring our knowledge to the regulators on an ongoing basis. And it's very interesting because regulators turn to us very often to, get some data points or knowledge or, sharing our experience on AML, also on listing new assets, on the internal control framework, on the tools we are using. So it's not only in Europe, it's everywhere in the world where I would say we are probably one of the reference exchange, for regulators when it comes to crypto, where we can basically cooperate and share our journey and how we are reinforcing our controls and developing our capabilities. So we do that all the time. It's part of the journey, and at the same time, it's very good to hear feedback from regulators as well, so that you can adapt the way you are operating. And I think there is also a high level of trust with regulators in that aspect. But we do that every day. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's good. Well, it has to be that way, I guess.
It has to be that way. Absolutely. Yeah.
So you made an announcement at Money 2020, Bitstamp-as-a-service. So why did you decide to provide the Bitstamp infrastructure, the platform for others to integrate to and use basically on a white label basis? Why did you do that?
Yeah, great question. So Bitstamp-as-a-service, in a nutshell, what it is that so we have developed a white label solution that banks, payment service providers, brokers basically can use to offer crypto access to their clients. So it's more like a B2B2C solution there. And our product is live in its first version. So with Revolut, for instance, or with Swissquote or Stuttgart Börse, as we mentioned earlier, LHV, where our clients, which are more like banks or payment institutions, are integrating our solutions to offer crypto access and liquidity to their end clients. And very interestingly, we see a huge interest in the ecosystem from the traditional actors or traditional companies to offer crypto access to their clients. And being trusted and regulated and having this product, which is very easy to integrate, is very compelling for Bitstamp in the sense that we offer crypto to 5 million clients directly, but we are also offering crypto probably to 10 million of clients indirectly via the banks and the payment service providers. And we have a version 2, which is coming by September of the product. And we have, very interestingly, we have more than 10 very, very large banks looking into that specific solution. And I think by the end of the year, we would be in a position to announce key partnerships with a few banks for Bitstamp-as-a-service, not only in Europe, but also globally. So I think we are very well positioned to be the trusted actor and the partner of choice, for B2B2C solutions, and working very, very closely with banks and payment service providers, but also brokers. So that's really killer product for us on the top
sounds
of
like it. It really sounds like it, because it's you're cross-selling to banks when you're probably also consuming some of their services as well, which is a nice two-way street, I guess, to play.
Exactly. Exactly. And so on the top of our direct retail channels, it's also a very nice, elegant, sophisticated channel to bring more users onto the platform. And what is great also with this product is that when you offer B2B2C as a service, you bring compliant and regulated users onto the platform as well. So it gives even more trust on the ecosystem and on our platform. I mean, Yeah, looking forward to the end of year to announce, very, very strong partnerships with Bitstamp-as-a-service.
Great. Looking forward to it, indeed. So there's much talk currently about crypto going mainstream, and you said yourself that it's still very early, right? How can players like Bitstamp build the future where crypto comes as ubiquitous as internet itself? Like, what is the next iteration, right? Like truly Web3 or DeFi. How do you help build that future as Bitstamp?
Yeah, no, it's super interesting. So we did a market survey earlier this year. So we went to, I think that was like 28,000 respondents, in about 20 countries, to sense, what's the appetite for crypto there, and how they see crypto, what are the barriers, and how can we overcome those barriers. We went to 27,000 retail clients, 27,000 respondents, which are retail, but also some institutional respondents there. And I think, very interestingly, 90% of the respondents believe that crypto will be mainstream within the next 10 years, within the next decade, which is great. And I think the key points why it's not...
I think that was me. Well, I was one of those because I took your survey.
Great. Thanks, Adam. So you are one of them, and it's great because what we need to improve as an ecosystem there is the barriers today. They are education. People are like, I am interested in crypto, but I don't necessarily know how it works. I don't necessarily know where to buy crypto. So that there's education to be made there. There is also regulation. I think people feel that regulation is still not there. Of course, we are in a regulatory transition at the moment. MiCA is not here in Europe yet, but there is the VASP regime, and it's quite fragmented and quite complex. So I think in the spirit of the retail, of the consumers, the lack of complete regulation on crypto is a bit of a barrier there, which will be overcome probably in 2024 with MiCA, hopefully. So there is a little bit of education. There is regulatory aspect which needs to be overcome, and I think with these two components that will, if you bring more education, more regulation, it will create even more trust. And this is probably at this point of time where crypto will become more and more mainstream. So really, really looking forward to be like in 10 years time and to see how the ecosystem will have developed. And hopefully our survey, was telling us the truth there. And crypto being mainstream.
I'm sure it did. I'm sure it did. So just to sort of expand on that a little bit, does regulation trigger education? Or is it the other way around? Education triggers regulation? Because you can make arguments from both sides, right? Like the regulator educate themselves or because of what the consumers are trying to do. But also, the regulator already has some knowledge and practice, and they put it into sort of a framework for companies to stick to, right? So which triggers which? Is this a chicken and egg?
Yeah, I would say, the education, it's probably more on the private sector. I think it's the ecosystem. We need to join forces to amplify the education there. To provide more content, maybe some education academy, some very, 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 very easy to understand, guidelines and content on what is crypto and where to buy crypto and where to store crypto, what's the custody, what's the payment rails. So that, we are demystifying, I would say, the crypto journey. I mean, if you ask your, if you ask your neighbor who have zero crypto, experience,
or my grandma,
or your grandma, yeah, exactly. We need to demystify, what's crypto there, and very importantly as well, there is education on what is crypto, but and where to access crypto. And this is great in a sense that we see banks and payment service providers integrating, for instance, our solution to offer crypto access, to their end clients. Because what happens there is that if they want to buy stock, like, if they want to buy Apple or PayPal, for instance, they can also buy, Bitcoin and Ether and some of the digital assets that we are offering on the platform. So it's great to see that, as part of the, I would say, educational journey, we see more and more actors with many clients with well-established, brand and trust, giving crypto access to their end clients there. So I think it's more like, the private sector to educate, the retail. On the side, of course, once the regulation is in place around MiCA, that will be like a level playing field. That will bring, also some, high level of protection to the consumers, so they will feel protected. So on one way,
they will feel safer, so they will start entering.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So they will be educated, they will be feeling safer, and therefore, I think that will be helping the ecosystem where we'll see crypto, mainstream. And most importantly, I think the key point here is the user experience. We, as an ecosystem, I think for Bitstamp, our key focus is to place clients in the center and to offer the best user experience and the most simple one. Otherwise, we won't succeed if it's still, very fragmented, complex for someone to make a purchase of crypto there.
Absolutely. Here's some more education there, and better UX. And at some point when the regulation lands, a level playing field that allows more, I guess, participants on the consumer retail side to enter the market.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Thank you so much, JB. You really, in my eyes, you're already a crypto legend. So congratulations for earning the badge. It was a pleasure to have you on the show. And to our audience, stay tuned for more legendary tales as we bring those most inspiring stories from the crypto legends of Web3. Crypto Legends is to be continued. Thank you very much.